Good morning. I'm Carl with the Hondo Public Library. Of all the Native American tribes encountered by Texan settlers, the Comanche were some of the most influential in the region. Where did the Comanche originate? How did their relationship with the Texan settlers change over time? Let's answer that question and many more in this month's chapter of Monday Memories. The Comanche are a Native American tribe from the southern Great Plains. The Comanche language is a part of the Nʉmʉnʉʉ branch of the Uto-Aztecan family, a language family that also includes the Ute, Hopi, and Shoshone languages, as well as the Aztec language of Nahuatl down in Mesoamerica. The Comanche broke away from the Shoshone tribe of the Great Basin probably sometime in the 1500s. This was part of a bigger trend called the Shoshonean expansion, where peoples from the Great Basin and the Rockies moved down onto the plains. The Cototeca, or Bison Eater tribe, was one of the first Comanche bands to branch off. This change in way of life was facilitated by the arrival of the European colonists, more specifically by the horses that they brought with them. The Comanche first acquired horses after the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, in which indigenous peoples rose up and pushed Spanish colonists out of the province of Santa Fe, managing to keep them out for over a decade. The fleeing Spanish left behind over 1,000 horses. These horses were traded across the continent, and eventually the indigenous peoples learned how to breed them and how to ride them. The Comanche mastered the art of horsemanship, completely changing the way that hunting and warfare were carried out. No longer did they have to run up to buffalo and scare them off of a cliff. They could hunt right in close quarters with the horses. The flat terrain of the Great Plains allowed the Comanche to gain control of a large area known as the Comancheria, known natively as Nʉmʉnʉʉ. From the 1750s through the 1850s, the Comancheria encompassed a large area that included parts of modern-day Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Kansas. The Comancheria is considered a quasi-empire, but was not a centralized state. Rather, it was a greater cultural area controlled by many different Comanche bands, each under their own chief. This almost reminds me of the way the Viking society was arranged. The Vikings were able to spread across Europe, but they were never under any centralized leader. The Comanche displaced many other tribes in the region, such as the Apache, and frequently warred with European settlers as well, raiding their settlements. Of course, not every interaction with settlers was hostile. Traders known as Comancheros made their living trading with the Comanche. But the primarily raid-based way of life the Comanche lived often put them at odds with other groups, settler and indigenous alike. In fact, the name Comanche itself comes from the Spanish rendering of the Ute word Quimansi, which means enemy. The European population of the Southwest was very sparse at this time, so the heartland of the Comancheria was nearly impossible to attack on a large scale. But this was bound to change as Texas was being settled at greater and greater rates, and so the Comanche switched their strategy from offense to defense. The Comanche sought a formal peace and formal recognition of the borders of the Comancheria from the Republic of Texas to prevent future fighting. In March of 1840, a Comanche delegation arrived in San Antonio, prepared to propose the peace as well as offer the exchange of prisoners. One of the chiefs who did not attend was a chief named Buffalo Hump, who had previously refused to return any of the prisoners he had taken. Other chiefs did not have the authority to guarantee the release of Buffalo Humps and other chiefs' prisoners, frustrating the Texians. The decision was made to take the entire Comanche negotiating party hostage, which almost immediately led to armed fighting as the hostages tried to escape the council house. On the Comanche side, 35 were killed, 30 adult males, 3 women and 2 children, and 29 were taken prisoner, 27 women and 2 old men. On the Texian side, 7 people were killed and 10 were wounded, largely due to friendly fire from the confined indoor nature of the fight. The Comanche were outraged at the violation of the sacred right of council. Most of the chiefs killed their prisoners, and Buffalo Hump began amassing an army ready to retaliate against the betrayal. On August 7, 1840, a force of around 400 to 500 Comanche warriors, with 500 additional Comanche and support roles, reached the Texas coast and began sacking the cities of Victoria and Linville. This was different from a normal raid. A normal raid just targeted horses, livestock. This was war. Most of the townspeople, knowing that the Comanche had no way to attack out at sea, got onto boats and could only watch as their cities were destroyed. Historians remembered this incident as the Great Raid of 1840, the largest single raid ever mounted by Native Americans against what is now the United States. At the time of the raid, Linville was the second largest port city in Texas. All goods that were going to San Antonio came through Linville. Today, it doesn't exist anymore. Most of the survivors moved away to nearby Port Lavaca, and the damage to the town was so significant that no one bothered to rebuild it. Buffalo Hump was able to completely wipe it off the map. The raiders captured hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of silver. In fact, they captured so much silver that it slowed them down as they were retreating, and the Texian military was able to catch up to them and begin a counterattack at the Battle of Plum Creek. This battle was not very organized. It mostly consisted of the Comanche retreating while the Texans fired at them from the sides. And many Comanche were able to escape as the Texans became distracted with picking up all the loot that was falling on the ground. Defeat at Plum Creek was not enough to deter future raids, which became more frequent under Buffalo Hump's leadership. An attempt at peace was made in 1845, and Sam Houston actually agreed to a treaty where settlement beyond the Edwards Plateau was not allowed. However, none of the settlers respected Sam Houston's proclamation, and so fighting resumed pretty quickly. As the Texas population continued to explode, the advantage that the Comanche had grew less and less. Previously, the Comanche had been able to avoid mass outbreaks of smallpox because of the sparse population, but as the population rose, so did the cases of smallpox, which decimated the tribe. Railroad expansion had also driven the Comanche's primary food source, the bison, to near extinction. The golden age of the Comancheria was over. In 1858, Texas Rangers allied with tribes hostile to the Comanche and launched the Antelope Hills expedition, the first time that the heart of the Comancheria itself was attacked. In October of that same year, Buffalo Hump's camp was attacked and 80 of his men were killed, despite his band having recently agreed to a peace treaty with the United States. By this point, Buffalo Hump was well into his 70s, and he had become too weak and tired to attack back, and was moved to a reservation where he tried to make a living as a farmer. He mourned what he called the death of the Comanche way of life. By the turn of the century, the Comancheria would be no more. While it is important to know the stories of indigenous mistreatment at the hands of the U.S., we can't fall into the trap of viewing them exclusively in the past tense. This is not the end of the Comanche as a people, as is often the presented narrative. The Comanche culture is still living, breathing, and evolving. The Comanche tribe currently has approximately 17,000 enrolled tribal members, with around 7,000 residing in the tribal jurisdictional area around Lawton and Fort Sill. Though Comanche ways of life might look different than they did 100 years ago, that's also true of pretty much every other culture on the planet. This has been this month's chapter of Monday Memories. Next month, we'll take a look at why San Antonio's borders look like this. And as always, thank you for watching.